We've got more to talk about, and it still doesn't involve Iran's coaching drama. Today is part 2 of our analysis of the Welsh national team. You know the deal, and you know what time it is. It's time for Team Melli Talk. We continue our analysis of the national team of Wales. Hey everyone, welcome back to Team Melli Talk. For today's episode, I am joined by a diehard fan of the national team of Wales. His name is Gruff Stead.
Griff, welcome to Team Melli Talk. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be on here. Looking forward to it.
For all our viewers, Griff is actually the son of Phil Stead, the author of Red Dragons, the story of Welsh football. Now, Griff, I got a question I've been meaning to ask you. How many times have you read your dad's book, and has he quizzed you on it?
It's sad to say, but I haven't actually read it yet. Not a big reader, but it's something that I do need to get done, especially when he finishes the last bit that discusses the past couple of years. I think that'll be done in October, and it's something that I need to do. Yeah, I need to get reading it as soon as possible, I think.
All right, well, I'm sure, I don't know if your dad's reminding you about it, but I'll make sure to give you a reminder once in a while, just to be fair.
No, yeah, it's been too long without reading it, to be fair.
All good. And before we get to something else, what can we say? Stay on the topic of your father for just a moment. He's obviously a football historian, so I just want to go over a little bit of history real quick. Wales and Iran have only met on one other occasion, and it was a friendly match back in 1978. Iran played Wales to prepare for their World Cup match against Scotland at the 1978 World Cup in Argentina. And that match between Wales and Iran was played at the Azadi Stadium in Tehran. Wales prevailed by winning 1-0. The only goal of the match was scored by Phil Dwyer. And for a little bit of irony, Wales was actually in the same qualifying group for the 1978 World Cup with Scotland and Czechoslovakia. So had Wales qualified, they would have been grouped with Iran. Yeah, of course, the whole shoulda, woulda, coulda. But here we are, a few months away from the 2022 World Cup.
And Griff, what have you got to say about Group B? England, Iran, United States, and Wales.
I think it's a very competitive group where all 4 teams really will believe they can progress. There's points to be earned from a Welsh perspective. I'd like to think we can get points from England, Iran, and USA, but that might be more hope than belief. But I definitely do believe that it'll be very competitive compared to some other groups that I've seen that have been drawn. Yeah.
Now, one more question involving, your dad, because obviously, he wrote a very important book. Have you talked to him yet about, his view on Group B? I mean, does he know much about the national team of Iran?
I think he does. Yeah, he told me to specifically look out for Sardar Azmoun. Yeah, the forward for Bayer Leverkusen. So I've done a bit of research on him, and yeah, he looks good. That's especially one worry that I do have going into the game against Iran.
Griff's father certainly has done his homework on the national team of Iran. And now for this segment, we are going to watch a video of one of my analysts sharing his view on how he thinks Iran matches up against Wales. Let's have a look.
Right. Against Wales, of course, every single team in the World Cup is quality and will be challenging. From what I've noticed of Wales, especially during their match against the Ukraine, they can be outclassed by a team effort, and that's what Ukraine had. They were very, very fluid on the ball, and Wales were opened up on occasion as well. But we have to remember that they are a team that plays primarily in England, in the Premier League, in the Championship, the Scottish League, so on and so forth. So they are a physical team as well. They have Gareth Bale too, and as we all know, he is a superstar and capable of breaking down any defense and scoring some outlandish goals. That said, though, I believe that Iran is capable of playing against them because we are a physical team. And again, with all the teams in this group, we are an outlier. We are an anomaly. Teams don't know about us all too well. They know of our reputation slightly because of the 2018 World Cup, but because of the lack of friendly matches that we played, we're sort of mysterious to the opposition. So that can be to our advantage against every single team that we play in Group B.
You heard my analyst Pasha Garami say quite a few things, which of course, thank you, Pasha, for sharing your input. But he mentioned that Wales is a physical team, and of course he mentioned Gareth Bale as a superstar. We all know that. But he also said that Wales was opened up on occasion against Ukraine. And the thing is, though, what can you add? From the video you just watched, what can you add to this in terms of the strengths of the Welsh national team?
I think the back five that we've been playing for the past couple of years is a really proven Premier League side. If you think about it, we've got Ben Davies, Joe Rodon, Ethan Ampadu. I know he's been on loan past couple of years, but he is a Chelsea player. Connor Roberts done really well with Burnley on the right. And then I also would like to see Neco Williams, who's just signed for Nottingham Forest for £20 million on the left. So I do think we've got a solid back five going into the tournament. Strengths on the wing, obviously. We've got Dan James. His speed is so crucial to the way we want to play and play on the counter. Gareth Bale, we know what he brings, just with his leadership attributes, but also obviously his quality on the ball that I don't need to mention. And then I'm hoping to see Kiefer Moore step up again as he did in the Euros. Very important player, and it would be really nice to see Dave Brooks back in the team after his spell out due to cancer. So yeah, it'd be great to see him back.
And I got an interesting question for you, to be honest, and that is, what do you say to those people who feel as if the Welsh midfield lacks a little bit of depth?
I think that argument is based upon the teams that some of our players play for. We've got Joe Morrell, Dylan Levitt, who are not been playing for Premier League sides as you would sort of expect now from the Welsh players as we have developed over the years. But they've had really good seasons. I think Dylan Levitt up in Scotland played really well, and he showed in these previous friendlies what he can offer us on the ball. And Joe Morrell is just a player who can step up to the plate when needed. We saw it in the Euro 2020 campaign when he assisted Kiefer Moore to equalise against Switzerland out of nothing. And so the argument that there's no depth in the midfield, I can understand it, but I don't agree with it. I think the boys we have can really offer us something all over the pitch, yeah.
All right, Griff, I know you know your football, but now it's time for me to ask you a question about the national team of Iran, obviously. And if you were to make a list, who are your players to watch on the national team of Iran?
The forwards I'm especially wary of, as I mentioned, Sardar Azmour plays for Bayer Leverkusen, and also Mehdi Tameni, I think, plays for FC Porto. Yeah, Taremi, sorry. Plays for FC Porto. He's a brilliant player. Look into the midfield then. Godos.
Someone Godus, yeah.
Yeah, Godos, sorry for my pronunciation. Played really well for Brentford last season, season prior in the Championship. I think he made 40 appearances after a loan spell, and he signed permanently last year for them. So yeah, there's a lot of talent in there. Yakan Bash, who we saw play for Brighton for the past few years, he's now moved to Feyenoord. He's someone that can really offer something as well. So there's talent there, especially going forward.
And another thing I want to talk about now, I'm actually focusing a lot today, to be honest, on the back five. And you mentioned the quality players on the back five of the Welsh national team, but one player I want to talk about is Joe Rodon. He's only made 15 appearances for Tottenham since 2020. And like I said, and of course, we know he's a good player playing for a good club, but is this basically because of a lot of injury problems he's possibly had?
This is something that's bizarre to me, because every time I've watched him, I think he's brilliant. He really is a good player, and so I'd love to see him have that opportunity with Spurs. It hasn't come, and now he's moved to Stade Rennais, where hopefully he can get back to the form that he showed at Swansea, and also when he's in the camp with Wales. Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned Sardar Azmoun. You mentioned Sardar Azmoun and Mehdi Taremi as very dangerous players on the national team of Iran. Of course, that's obviously true. We love them. And they have those poaching mentalities. They know how to get in the right place at the right time. And I actually think just, when looking at the players that the Welsh backline has, I think this is going to be quite a challenge. It's like I said earlier, I feel like maybe there's a little bit of depth. There's a little bit of, like I said earlier, I feel like the Welsh team is lacking a little bit of depth at the midfield position, but they obviously seem very strong at the back.
Yeah, those forwards that Iran possess will cause us problems, no doubt, as will every team in the World Cup. You can't qualify for a World Cup without having this talent in the squad. And so I think the back five need to be solid, need to squeeze up high up to the field, because as you said, they're poachers. They will take goals off you when you least expect it. But it'll be a challenge for the boys. But hopefully we'll be successful and get the win against Iran. Yeah.
Well, of course, I obviously can't really agree with you on that one, because we all want our teams to win. But never know what can happen. It's a very, very interesting group. And all right, let's go ahead and talk about some big decisions to make. Let's just say you have the opportunity to put in some input. Who would you choose as your starting keeper for the Welsh team right now? Would it be Wayne Hennessy, or would it possibly be Danny Ward?
It's a difficult one. Welsh keepers for the last few years, it's been based on form, I feel, going into these games. And I think it'll be the same for this World Cup. Wayne Hennessy was absolutely amazing against Ukraine and Austria in the qualifying games. But Danny Ward also now has a chance to step up as Leicester City's number one following Kasper Schmeichel's exit. So if Danny Ward can prove himself in the Premier League and show consistency, keep a few clean sheets against the big sides in there, I think he has to cement his place in the team. But if not, if they bring in another keeper and he's still pushed onto the bench, Wayne Hennessy might be able to prove his worth based on what he can offer on the day.
Griff, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
And that's it, everybody, for this edition of Team Melli Talk. As always, really do appreciate the support. Make sure you get to our website, www.teammelitalk.com. Remember, this is your best source for the latest news on Team Melli, the national team of Iran. Make sure you find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know the handle, @Team Melli Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that notification button. See you on the next edition of Team Melli Talk.